In the picturesque town of Willowbrook, where rolling hills met lush forests, lived a girl named Emily Winslow. She was the daughter of the town's wealthiest family, known for their sprawling estates and old money. Despite her affluent background, Emily was grounded, kind, and compassionate. She had a natural beauty that shone through her warm smile and sparkling eyes, making her beloved by everyone in town. On the other side of Willowbrook lived Jake Miller, a boy of humble origins. His family wasn't rich. They lived in a modest house at the edge of town. Jake's father worked as a mechanic, and his mother ran a small bakery. Unlike Emily's privileged life, Jake had grown up understanding the value of hard work. But what he lacked in wealth, he more than made up for with his intellect, charm, and a heart full of dreams. Their worlds collided when they were paired for a school project in their senior year of high school. Emily had always noticed Jake from afar, but never had the chance to speak with him. Jake, on the other hand, had long admired Emily's kindness and beauty, but never imagined they would share more than a passing glance. The project required them to spend time together, and as they worked on it, they discovered a mutual connection that went beyond their differing social statuses. They began to meet outside of school, sharing long walks through the town's winding paths, talking about their hopes, fears, and dreams. Emily admired Jake's drive and determination, while Jake was captivated by Emily's sincerity and her ability to see beyond material wealth. Their friendship soon blossomed into a deep, passionate love, a love that felt as if it was meant to be. As their relationship grew, Emily and Jake became inseparable. They were the kind of couple that people admired from afar, the kind whose love was pure and untainted by the world's expectations. But not everyone was pleased with their budding romance. Emily's parents, particularly her father, William Winslow, were fiercely protective of their family's reputation. They had high expectations for Emily, expecting her to marry someone of equal or greater status. Jake, in their eyes, was a poor match for their daughter, a boy with no fortune or family name to speak of. The Winslows wanted Emily to pursue a future that would maintain or elevate the family's social standing, and Jake didn't fit into that plan. William Winslow, in particular, saw Jake as a threat to everything he had worked for. He believed that love was something that could be cultivated with the right partner, not a spontaneous emotion that could derail one's life plans. Despite Emily's attempts to reason with him, William was adamant. She had to end her relationship with Jake or face severe consequences. One evening, after a heated argument with her father, Emily made the heart-wrenching decision to protect Jake from her family's wrath. She knew that if she didn't break things off, her father would ruin Jake's life, using his power and influence to sabotage any future Jake might have. With tears in her eyes and a heavy heart, Emily met Jake by the old oak tree where they had shared so many moments together. She told him they had to part ways, that their love, no matter how strong, couldn't survive the world they lived in. Jake was devastated, but he understood the impossible position Emily was in. He didn't blame her. Instead, he blamed the cruel world that wouldn't allow them to be together. They shared a final, tearful embrace before going their separate ways, their hearts shattered. In the months that followed, Jake's life spiraled downward. The pain of losing Emily, the love of his life, was too much to bear. He tried to focus on his studies, but without Emily, nothing seemed to matter anymore. His grades plummeted, and he eventually dropped out of college. Jake took on a series of dead-end jobs, trying to distract himself from the emptiness inside. But the more he tried to move on, the more he found himself sinking into a deep depression. His once bright future now seemed dark and uncertain, and the dreams he had shared with Emily felt like distant memories. As time went on, Jake lost his way completely. He stopped caring about his appearance, his health, and his life. His depression deepened, leading him to self-destructive behaviors. He pushed away anyone who tried to help him, including his parents, who were heartbroken to see their son in such a state. Jake began to drift, moving from one place to another, unable to hold down a job or find any meaning in his life. Eventually, Jake found himself homeless, living on the streets. The boy who had once dreamed of a bright future with the girl he loved was now a shadow of his former self. He wandered aimlessly, haunted by memories of Emily and the life they could have had together. He avoided people, ashamed of what he had become, and he wondered if he would ever find a way out of the darkness that had consumed him. 10 years later, Emily had become a successful CEO, running a thriving company in a bustling city. Despite her achievements, she never forgot Jake. She had tried to move on, even dating other men, but none of them could compare to the love she had once shared with Jake. Her heart remained tied to the boy she had left behind, and she often wondered what had become of him. One cold winter morning, while driving to work, Emily was caught in a traffic jam near the city's downtown area. As she sat in her car, waiting for the light to change, she glanced out the window and noticed a group of homeless people huddled together on the sidewalk. Among them, a familiar face caught her eye. It was Jake. Emily's heart skipped a beat as she stared at him, her mind racing. He looked older, worn down by years of hardship, but she could still see the boy she had once loved in his eyes. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. The man she had left behind all those years ago was now living on the streets. Determined to help him, Emily pulled over and approached Jake. He didn't recognize her at first, but when she spoke his name, he looked up in shock. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she reached out to him, offering him help. Jake was hesitant, too ashamed of what he had become to accept her kindness. But Emily wouldn't take no for an answer. She brought him back to her home, gave him food, and a place to stay. She told him about her life, her successes, and how she had never stopped thinking about him. Jake listened in silence, overwhelmed by the turn his life had taken. He couldn't believe that the girl he had loved so long ago was now the woman standing before him, offering him a second chance at life. Emily knew that Jake needed more than just a place to stay. He needed a purpose, something to help him rebuild his life. She offered him a job at her company, starting as a janitor. It wasn't much, but it was a start, a way for Jake to regain his confidence and self-worth. Jake was reluctant at first, but Emily's unwavering support and belief in him gave him the strength to accept the offer. As Jake started working at the company, he slowly began to rebuild his life. The structure and routine of work helped him find stability, and the respect and kindness he received from Emily and her employees gave him hope. Emily kept a close eye on him, ensuring that he had everything he needed to succeed. She knew that Jake was capable of so much more than just being a janitor, but she also understood that he needed time to heal and find his way back to the person he used to be. As the days turned into weeks, Jake began to regain his confidence. He took pride in his work, no matter how menial it was, and he started to feel like he was part of something again. Emily and Jake spent more time together, rekindling their old friendship. They shared meals, talked about their past, and slowly but surely, the love they had once shared began to blossom again. Emily's boyfriend, Richard, wasn't pleased with the situation. He couldn't understand why Emily was so invested in helping Jake, a man who had seemingly failed at life. Richard saw Jake as a threat, someone who could ruin everything they had built together. But Emily didn't care. She knew that her feelings for Jake were more than just nostalgia. They were real, and they were strong. As the bond between Emily and Jake grew, so did the tension between her and Richard. But Emily was determined to stand by Jake's side, no matter what. She knew that she had made the right choice in helping him, and she was willing to fight for their love, just as she had fought for her success. As Jake settled into his new role as a janitor at Emily's company, he found himself slowly regaining the sense of purpose he had lost years ago. The routine of work, though simple, brought structure back into his life. The pride he took in doing a good job, even in the smallest of tasks, began to restore his shattered self-esteem. But more importantly, his renewed connection with Emily breathed life back into him in ways he hadn't expected. Emily, now more aware of her feelings, found herself drawn to Jake in a way she hadn't felt in years. Their time apart, instead of weakening their bond, had only made their connection stronger. The moments they shared during lunch breaks and after work became the highlights of their days. Emily's kindness, patience, and genuine care for Jake began to melt the walls he had built around his heart. Richard, Emily's current boyfriend, sensed the growing closeness between Emily and Jake. His suspicions turned to jealousy, and he became increasingly possessive. Richard had always been the type to value status and control, and the idea of a former homeless man competing for Emily's affections infuriated him. He started to subtly undermine Jake at every opportunity, hoping to drive a wedge between him and Emily. However, Emily noticed Richard's behavior and was disturbed by it. The man she once thought she could build a future with was showing a side of himself she had never seen before, one that was insecure, manipulative, and controlling. Meanwhile, Jake was the opposite. Despite his struggles, he treated Emily with respect and genuine care, never expecting anything from her, just grateful for the second chance she had given him. As Jake continued working at the company, he began to notice things that didn't sit right with him. He overheard conversations and saw documents that hinted at financial irregularities within the company. His sharp mind, which had once made him a top student, was now piecing together a puzzle that led back to one person: Richard. Jake discovered that Richard had been embezzling funds from the company, using his position to siphon off large sums of money into offshore accounts. But what shocked Jake even more was that Richard had a secret life, a mistress he kept in another city, living lavishly on the money he was stealing from Emily's company. Jake wrestled with the decision of whether to tell Emily. He knew that revealing the truth would devastate her, but he also knew that she deserved to know the man she was with was a fraud. After much contemplation, Jake decided he couldn't keep the truth from Emily any longer. She had saved him when he was at his lowest. Now it was his turn to protect her. One evening, after everyone had left the office, Jake approached Emily in her office. He showed her the evidence he had gathered and explained everything he had discovered. Emily was in shock. Her world turned upside down. She had always trusted Richard, and the betrayal cut deep. But as the initial shock wore off, she realized that Jake had done the right thing by telling her. His honesty and loyalty meant more to her than anything else. Emily decided to confront Richard. She planned to do so privately, but Jake insisted on being there to support her. When Richard was confronted with the evidence, he tried to deny it at first, but the proof was irrefutable. In a fit of rage, he lashed out, accusing Jake of being a worthless bum who was trying to steal Emily away. But Emily had heard enough. She ended things with Richard on the spot, throwing him out of her life and her company. After the confrontation with Richard, Emily was emotionally drained. She had lost a man she thought she could trust, but in doing so, she had rediscovered the one person who had always truly cared for her, Jake. As they sat together in her office, the weight of everything that had happened hung heavily in the air. Jake, seeing how vulnerable Emily was, couldn't hold back his feelings any longer. He confessed that he had never stopped loving her, even after all these years. The pain of their separation had never left him, but neither had the love he felt for her. He told her how he had admired her from afar, how he had seen her as a beacon of hope during his darkest days, and how he had never thought he would be worthy of her love again. Emily listened, her heart swelling with emotion. She realized that Jake's love for her had been the one constant in her life, something pure and true that had survived despite the years and the hardships they had both faced. She admitted that she, too, had never stopped loving him, that no one else had ever measured up to the love they had once shared. In that moment, they both knew that their love was something special, something that had endured the test of time and circumstance. They shared a tender kiss, sealing the bond that had been rekindled between them. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated love, two souls finding their way back to each other after years of searching. With Richard out of the picture, Emily and Jake began to rebuild their lives together. Jake was promoted from his janitorial position to a more significant role in the company, one that matched his intelligence and capabilities. Emily supported him every step of the way, helping him regain his confidence and sense of purpose. Their relationship deepened with each passing day. They spent time rediscovering each other, sharing stories from the years they had been apart, and building new memories together. Emily was no longer the girl from Willowbrook who had to choose between love and family expectations. She was now a strong, independent woman who knew what she wanted, and what she wanted was Jake. Jake, on the other hand, found himself growing stronger, both emotionally and professionally. The love and support Emily gave him allowed him to heal from the wounds of the past, and to start believing in himself again. He no longer saw himself as the homeless man who had lost everything. He was now a man with a future, one that he was building with the woman he loved. Emily's company thrived under their combined leadership. They worked together, not just as partners in business, but as partners in life. The respect and trust they had for each other formed the foundation of their relationship, and their love continued to grow stronger every day. As the years passed, Emily and Jake's love story became one of legend, a tale of two people who had found each other, lost each other, and then found their way back together again. They were a living testament to the idea that true love can overcome any obstacle, no matter how insurmountable it may seem. They eventually got married in a small, intimate ceremony, surrounded by close friends and family. It was a far cry from the lavish wedding Emily's parents had once envisioned for her, but it was perfect in every way. The ceremony was filled with love, laughter, and tears of joy, as Emily and Jake finally became husband and wife. Together, they built a life filled with love, success, and happiness. They continued to run the company together, but they never let it consume them. They made time for each other, for their family, and for the things that truly mattered in life. Jake, who had once been homeless and broken, was now a loving husband and a successful businessman, all thanks to the woman who had never given up on him. Emily, who had once been trapped by her family's expectations, was now free to live the life she had always wanted, with the man she loved by her side. And so, Emily and Jake lived happily ever after, proving to the world that true love, no matter how tested, can endure and flourish when two people are truly meant to be together. Their story became an inspiration to others, a reminder that love is the most powerful force of all, capable of overcoming any challenge and bringing two hearts together in perfect harmony. Hope you enjoyed this story. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. Your participation is essential so that we can continue to bring you more incredible stories. Share it with your friends to help our channel grow. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.